Welcome to Fabulous Women Over 40, hosted by celebrity stylist Allan. Join Kara as she interviews amazing women, sometimes younger and amazing men as well, in their 40s and beyond. Here's Kara with our Fabulous Woman of the Day.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another inspiring episode of Fabulous Women Over 40 podcast. I'm your host, Allan, personal stylist and branding expert with over 20 years of experience in helping women create powerful presences through their appearance. This podcast is dedicated to celebrating the incredible women over 40 who are redefining what to be fabulous means at any age. Today, I am beyond thrilled to introduce a special guest, and all of my guests are special, but this one is extra special. Just to me, to everybody, I'm sure. A true icon in the world of fashion and personal styling. She's someone who has inspired millions of women to embrace their true selves and find confidence in their unique style. You may know her as the co-host of the TV show What Not to Wear and Love, Luster, Run, where she transformed the lives of countless individuals with her impeccable fashion sense and compassionate approach. Stacy has not only been guiding light for many of us in the fashion industry, but a fierce advocate for self-love, body positivity, and authentic living. Her journey from fashion editor to television star to CEO of her own company, Style for Hire and State of Menopause, is a testament to her incredible resilience and vision. Join us as we dive into Stacy's journey, her insights on personal style, and her advice for women over 40 and 50 and beyond who are looking to reinvent their wardrobes and embrace their inner fabulousness. Get ready for an inspirational episode filled with wisdom and, of course, some style. So without further ado, help me welcome the fabulous Stacy London to the Fabulous Women Over 40 podcast. Hey, Stacy.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy we finally were able to get this to happen.
Finally. I've known you for 15 years, and it took us 2 years to get this together?
Yes, it's been a journey, but we're here, and that's all that matters.
We're here, and that is all that matters. And that was a very kind introduction.
Yes, and you look fabulous as always. I mean, just you're testament of style to women everywhere.
Well, thank you. I love that you're like, feeling fabulous over 40. I'm like, 40, eat my dust. That was 15 years ago. I just turned 55. I'm like, 40, yes. I was a baby.
Right.
It is really interesting. I'm so appreciative of the fact that you're doing a podcast like this and that there are more and more podcasts really directed at this audience because, I don't think we talk a lot about, well, we certainly weren't talking about midlife as any kind of like, goals. Everybody wants to be 50, right? No. Certainly not for women in particular, but I do feel that more and more Gen X, what our legacy is probably going to be, is the fact that we extended what the idea of youthful energy and longevity looks like. So I don't want to say youth because I don't think we're going to extend our youth spans. Young people look at people in their 50s and think, you old fogies, you don't know what's going on. But I do think that there's a lot more relevancy and a lot more importance for what women over 40 are able to do in society now and what we must do going forward. And a lot of that really starts not only with self-love, but self-identity. Like really being able to self-identify. And we talk about this in terms of gender, sexuality, race, religion, all sorts of things. But we don't necessarily think about that when we're thinking about our personal style. How do we want to present ourselves to the world, to strangers, to people we care about? How do we respect an environment in the way that we behave, act, and what we wear? And that to me has always been interesting.
Yeah, I think just style is the culmination of who you are as a person. I feel like all the things you love to eat and where you've been and the movies you love and the colors you like, all those things. So it's not as simple as like, oh yeah, let me just put on this beige thing or whatever. Or, I remember you saying once, it takes as much time to dress frumpy or crazy or sloppy as it does to dress nice. So why not take the extra thought to
Well,
dress nice.
exactly. The funny thing is that people say to me, "Oh, I can't stand it if something is dry cleanable." And I laugh because I'm like, "Listen to me. You don't want to dry clean your clothes a lot. You want to do that maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Air things out in
Right.
fresh air. Dry cleaning is
Mm-hmm.
like, dangerous chemicals. Machine washable means you got to wash it every time you wear it, right? So there are
That's so
certain things that
true.
people we have to think about the way we think about what is convenient. That's the word I'm
That's
looking for, right?
true.
Time versus money is usually the issue when it comes to when it comes to style. But the one thing
Mhm.
that I still believe what I told you before is like it takes the same amount of time to put on sweatpants as it does any pair of pull-on pants. And what if
Exactly.
pull-on pants were made that were tailored to actually look good instead of,
Right.
a schlumpy pair of sweatpants? Same amount of time to put them on, as long as they're not uncomfortable to the point that you're
Right.
like, oh my God, I can't breathe, or, whatever it is, then you're
Right.
literally taking the same amount of time and looking exponentially better. The really hard stuff is hair and makeup, if you ask me,
That's
because
true.
I don't know how to do it. Thank God when I was on television, other people did it because I have no idea what I'm doing. And the funny thing about that is like, really think about it. That's what takes up your time: drying your
Yeah.
hair, doing your makeup, deciding what to wear. If you have an
Mhm.
organized closet, should actually bring you a lot of excitement and joy, not dread
Yes.
and fear. Right?
Yeah.
That's always the goal. And the way you do that requires like a little bit of organization and a little bit
Mhm.
of note taking and a little bit of like checking in with yourself and your gut instinct. And then I think you can really create personal style just about anywhere you go.
It's so true. Yeah, because I get people that say that all the time. Like, "I don't like anything," and it's just like, okay, unless you get a stain on it, or you really funked it up, you don't
Yeah.
need to do it every time you wear it. You can just, like you
And
said,
there are so
hang it
many
up, put a little
stains.
Febreze, something.
Absolutely, a little Febreze, and also because look, dry cleaning does really, denigrate the
Hmm.
integrity of the fabric. So you want to be
It
careful
does.
how much you're using chemicals in the first place. Even with, what kind of detergent you're using, you want to be careful. But I think it
Yeah.
is really interesting when we think about, you know, this idea of what style is, right? You were talking
Hmm.
about this. We tend to compartmentalize and categorize things because it's easier for us to do it that way, right? This is my house style, or these are the things I like to eat, or I like
Hmm.
80s rom-coms, or whatever it is. Instead of looking at this and saying, well, these are not all separate things. What's the common denominator? You.
Right.
That makes
Yeah.
you unique. That makes your style, your taste, your sensibility, everything from like liking almond croissants better to regular croissants. That is a definitive characteristic of you, but it's like one brushstroke on the painting. So the
Right.
idea is to kind of stand back and be able to objectively look at yourself and see the whole painting.
Hmm.
What are all the colors?
Yes.
What are all the brushstrokes? What are all the things that make you happy, that fit your
Yes.
lifestyle, that fit your budget?
Hmm.
Um, those are things that take some time to work out. I mean,
Hmm.
believe me, when I was young, I was an adrenaline shopper. I wouldn't say I was a shopaholic, but man, if I was having a bad day, buying something real pretty never hurts, right?
Not
And
at
I would
all.
get a rush out of it, and I'd get home and be like, when am I going to wear these shoes? So it
Right.
took a long time to kind of train myself to figure out like, well, what do I really want, right? Not just the quick
Yeah.
fix. So I started keeping a list of all the things
Mm.
that I know I wish I had in my closet, or special items that I've been searching for years that are vintage, things like that. And those are the only things that I buy anymore. Because at
Right.
55, I'm out of my acquisitive phase, right? ACQU, not inquisitive. I love being curious, but I'm done with things. I don't need so many
Yeah.
things. I don't need so
Right.
many things. I don't need so much space. I don't need as many people. I feel
Hmm.
very much like downsizing is a joy as you get
Yeah.
older. And it's one that
True.
we in late stage capitalism definitely do not look on as being that um, formidable, right? The idea is like,
Yeah.
if you have the most toys when you die, you win, really, because you can't take them with you. And
Right.
all of
They
this
won't fit in the
idea that
coffin.
right. And you can love fashion. You can love fashion. But
Yeah.
loving fashion doesn't mean owning only designer clothing, right? That
Yeah.
that's that's just following trends. That's being trendy. That's being part of an industry, as you know, I have said many times, built on insecurity. But style comes from true passion about what you love and what you love about yourself.
Yeah. So what was it like for you growing up in New York, right? The city that never sleeps, like, everybody's wearing whatever and nobody really bats an eye. Somebody's wearing a garbage bag or like, a
Yeah.
spacesuit. Like what was that like? And what was your style when you were like a young girl to a teenager to a young adult? How did that evolve for you?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the 70s and 80s in New York, which was pretty crazy. I mean, it was a pretty crazy time. Certainly being a teenager in the 80s, was a wild playground for me, which is probably why I got all my yayas out by the time I was like 21. But anyway, when I was little, I only wore purple till I was about
Hmm.
3 or 4. I insisted. And then every year for Halloween, I had to be Dorothy because I was obsessed with
Hmm.
ruby red slippers. I liked anything glittery and shiny. I was like, a turkey, a raccoon, all of those animals, anybody who runs towards something shiny, that was me. I loved glitter. I loved rhinestones. Oh, I loved all of that stuff. And when I was young, I was asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said I wanted to be a cocktail waitress because that was the only job that I could think of where you could wear fishnets.
Oh,
And that was
cute. I
before I
love
knew
it.
about, sex work or any others, anything where, sure, fishnets are in fashion sometimes, but there are professions that love a fishnet. I was a young kid. And then as I got into later years, like sort of 11 to 13, you and I think have talked about this before. I was diagnosed with psoriasis, which is a autoimmune skin disease, when I
Hmm.
was 3, but it
Mm.
really didn't show up everywhere on my body until I was 11. And by the time I was
Mm.
11, literally from my neck down and my entire scalp was just like covered in
Wow.
scales.
Hmm.
And that was hard. I mean, it's hard. Kids are not
Yeah.
nice. I was not a not nice kid. And, I would have bullied somebody who looked like me, and I got bullied a ton. And
Yeah.
part of that was, really, it didn't even really have to do with the skin stuff because I would wear high white turtlenecks and
Hmm.
corduroy pants every day, even in the summer. And you couldn't tell how bad my dandruff was because I was always wearing white. But
Right.
we had cut my hair, which had been down to my hips, into a crew cut in order to put
Oh.
medicine on my scalp and in order to
Hmm.
scrub it out. And
Right.
kids were mean. They were just mean.
Yeah.
And I think that was really when I started to pay attention to appearance. So that was probably,
Mm.
yeah, 11. I was like 6th grade or 7th grade. And I really started to recognize how powerful feeling othered was.
Yeah.
And how important it is for kids to feel like they fit in. And when they don't,
Hmm.
how hard it is for them to stand out. And I think in
Right.
general, that is actually something we carry with us throughout our lives, right? We
I would
all want
say.
to belong somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh, and we all develop a tougher, thicker skin along the way. But, the first time somebody goes, ew, to you
Yeah.
about what you look
Right.
like, it sticks with you. It stays with you. You have to
Hmm.
undo that kind of learning and thinking. And I
Yeah.
didn't continue to have psoriasis all over my skin my entire life. They finally realized that I had chronic strep, and they took my tonsils out when I was 17, and that got rid of it for the
Oh
most part.
wow.
I mean, I'm always going to
Uh-huh.
have psoriasis, and I also have psoriatic arthritis now, which in some ways is way worse because you can't
Oh.
see it,
Mhm.
and it
Yeah.
can be very debilitating, right? So it's very hard when your people are like, "You don't look sick," but that's a whole other conversation. We'll get back to that.
Right. You're
But
making it up.
right, you're making it up,
Right.
which I find exhausting in and of itself. But
Yeah.
in high school, I was a real goth girl. I was really into The
Mm.
Cure and Mission UK. And oh my God, I loved all these like weird, crazy bands. And so I looked a lot like Robert Smith from The Cure. I wore like white pancake makeup and like really messy black eyeliner and red lipstick, and I had black hair and my little streak, and I had short hair that was like long in the front, very 80s, very flock of seagulls, and shaved in the back. I
Right.
swear to God. And it was an interesting time. I always had an opinion about style. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that I wanted to get into style, I think, after feeling so ostracized for being
Yeah.
unattractive, right? And I
Right.
wanted to feel attractive and cool and sexy and in the know.
Mm-hmm.
And fashion at that time certainly was about being 6 months ahead of everybody in terms of what
Mm-hmm.
we knew, right? So that
Right.
that sort of gave you an in before other people knew what was trendy or other people knew what was cool. And I guess that's what appealed to me, which again goes back to that idea that it's an industry that really attracts people with deep insecurity
Yeah. Makes
because you
sense.
want to be something that you're not instead of being who you are,
Right.
exploring who you are through style, learning who you are through style, and
Mm-hmm.
why excuse me, winding up loving with who you come out with, right? It's
Right.
sort of working. Sorry, let me think about how to say this. I just need to take a drink of water
You're
for a
good.
second. I think the idea is that you want to have enough confidence, which as a young person is very hard, to believe in
Mm-hmm.
your own choices and to believe
Right.
that what you're building is the future version of you, right? That's very hard
Yeah.
to do. As a young person, we take our
Right.
cues from others, and
It's
eventually
true.
we become more independent thinking and independent minded, and we decide who we want to be. But the problem with
Yeah.
that is that sometimes we get caught up along the way in terms of what everybody else is doing. And that's where
Yeah.
fashion is about trends. That's not about,
Mm-hmm.
or things being outrageously expensive, which is a new level of luxury that I find almost ridiculous. The same way,
Yeah.
the stage that we're at where we have such you know, a disparate gap between the haves and the have-nots, particularly in this
Right.
country, really makes fashion a very sore point, right? It's like if you have
Mm-hmm.
money, you can be stylish, but that's not true.
No, I've seen plenty of unstylish rich people.
And I've
Let's
seen
just say.
plenty of amazingly stylish people who have not a lot of extra money, right? This is about
Exactly.
creativity and about knowing yourself. The more you know yourself mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, you are
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to have a better handle on how to express that in the real world.
Yeah,
Certainty is a tricky topic, right? I mean, you're never
it's true.
really certain about anything, but the more
No.
that you can sort of veer that way, the more that you can kind of investigate and collect data and understand who you are as a person. I guess that's what youth is
Mm-hmm.
really all about. And that's what your 20s are for too. But at a
Yeah.
certain point, you take that information and you start to put it back into yourself in a way that's like, wow, okay, this year, the big colors are red, pink, and purple. And those are not my
Mm-hmm.
colors. I don't like wearing
Right.
them and I don't like the way they look on me. So you
Mm-hmm.
have a choice, right? You can wear those colors and be trendy, or you can wear the
Mm-hmm.
colors that you love and look great because they suit
Right.
you better and you feel better in them. And that's when I think you can start to see the difference between the industry and the individual. And the more the
Mm.
individual takes control, the more the industry has to listen to what the consumer wants. So look at what
That's
happened
true.
with the body positivity movement, right? I mean, for
Mm-hmm.
years, there was nothing, you could find nothing but muumuus in nylon and tent dresses that were just horrific. Anything in plus size, I was like, this is ridiculous. And
Yeah.
now we have designers that specialize in plus size, and we have designers that are
Mm-hmm.
starting to work in adaptive clothing. The more you demand what you want, the more you're going to see it reflected in the industry. We have a
Yeah,
lot of
because
collective power together in what we buy.
that is true. And especially like for some of my plus size clients, when we would go shopping, people thought that you were either SpongeBob SquarePants, like you have no waist, you're just a square body with no curves or nothing. It was so odd to me, and everything had to be shiny or just weird. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and then if you did find nice stuff, it was like 10 times more expensive than everybody else's, you know? So it's like, well, what do they do? Like,
Yeah.
it's depressing in a sense for people who are considered plus size, and that could be like a size 10 at this level. We don't even
Oh,
know where they
please.
consider it anymore.
Exactly. I remember being in LA once, and I walked into a store with a friend, and we were looking for a dress for a party she had to go to or something. And I
Mm-hmm.
grabbed this dress that I just thought would be perfect for her. And I said, "Do you have this in a size 8?" And this woman looked at me and said, "We don't carry larger sizes." I was like, "We're talking single digits, lady. What are you talking about?"
Oh
And that's like,
Lord.
in a lot of ways, I think we've made tons of progress in terms of body positivity. But then, you start to see slippage. You start to see people slipping back into this idea that thin is the only way to wear clothes, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
whatever it is. And you have to remind people that is just not the case. It's one of the reasons I'm such a huge fan of Katie Sturino, who wrote the book Body Talk and talks ad nauseum about body positivity, and she does not
Mm-hmm.
gatekeep at all, tells you every great fashion brand she finds, every great designer she finds, every company she finds. She supports women owned
Nice.
businesses and marginalized community owned businesses. And I really think
Mm-hmm.
that a voice like hers, which is quite powerful, has the ability to change an industry. She started a hashtag called Make My Size, and it made a
Mm.
huge difference. Huge difference.
Nice.
Now that we have things that can quote unquote go viral, oh my God, I
Right.
sound like I'm 100 years old.
Well, maybe we are. That's all I can say. Because
I'm
I mean,
halfway there.
we, well, yeah, same. I just turned 52, so I mean, hey, we're on the same
Here we
boat
are.
with no oars.
No worries.
Um, but what I was thinking was like, what is it that why does why does society value youth so much?
Oh,
Why are people afraid of getting older? Why is that such a thing that it's
yeah.
like
Well,
we all have to be 12? We're not.
right. I'm going to give you my honest opinion about that. I've been talking a lot about that in the last few years that I have, really struggled with my own menopause journey and really
Mm,
struggling with understanding how that gets conflated with aging and why people get embarrassed to talk about this or this stage. And then we wonder why women for the most part are the ones who feel like they have been completely ignored by the
mm,
culture in which they reside and certainly
right.
in which they contribute, right? And
Hmm.
I think that it's a couple of things. I think there is the sociobiological aspect of this that goes back to, the prehistoric software brain that we're still using, at least in this
Right.
generation, which is that, youth represents fertility.
Mm,
And how do you get past um, that sociobiological need to keep the human race going? Right. So
right.
there is something that's like, I would say, systemic to us that makes us believe that youth is beautiful so that people will get together and have kids. Right. Like that's
Mm,
part of it.
hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's certainly why you can see why it would affect women more than men,
Yeah.
because men can have kids into their 80s and women cannot, at least
Right.
not yet. Who knows what's coming? But
Right.
my feeling about that is that there is a rite of passage, and menopause is truly the rite of passage into a completely different life from the one
Mm,
you've known before. A different
hmm.
body that you've gotten used to over the past, let's say, 30 or 40 years, a different
Right.
mindset. A lot of things start to change. And this is
Hmm.
because of also chronologically just what we're dealing with as we get to our later 40s, early 50s. There's a lot going on, right? You may be raising
Yeah.
kids or have empty nest syndrome. You may have dying parents or elder care to worry about. This is
Yeah.
a very I read an article, and I've talked about this ad nauseum, that Scientific American did a while ago, years ago, that said the
Mm,
lowest level of happiness in a woman's life was between 45 and 55. Highest
mm,
rate of depression, highest rate of decreased earning potential, and highest rate of divorce. And I was like, you think this is by accident? It's
right.
because we have no understanding of female physiology. If we
Mm,
really took the time, it's not about like, oh, boo hoo, we're getting older. It's that
right.
our hormones are completely in flux. We are becoming
Yeah.
different people, and it is a true rite of passage. And so if
Yeah.
we're not talking about it that way, this idea that we've always had some sort of, thing about aging. Let's talk about like anti-aging cream. How
Yeah.
can you be anti? How can you actually be against aging when you cannot stop it? I don't care how many filters, fillers, Botox, facelifts, I don't care what you do. You are not going to cheat death. And eventually
No.
you will look
Yeah.
your age. In fact, you may look older for having done too much shit to your face, but I don't care.
Exactly.
That's up to you, right? But I do think that this is where our inability to value people after a
Yeah.
certain age, even with men, right? After 65, this idea of retirement or 72. Now, don't get me wrong. I think we should have age limits when it comes to politicians, but I'm talking about style. So, there are we go through different phases in our life. And I think that really, when we look at female physiology, I think we have never studied it enough to understand the
Yeah.
ways in which excuse me, we've never studied it enough to understand the ways in which aging affects women culturally and in
Right.
society. And if we had a much better idea about that, I think we would all have a much better mind frame around aging. But because we don't understand, we call women hysterical. We call them emotional. We call them all of these things. When I'm like, really? It's just that we've got more complex hormonal systems than you have, right? Or
Right.
complex hormone systems than you have.
Right.
And that's what drives me crazy. All of these things are interconnected. And I took a step back from style to start this company about menopause, really as a jumping off platform to talk more about menopause. And
Right.
what I learned in running that company was that we were getting so much traffic. It was almost to the point where the site couldn't handle that amount of hits. But at the same
Yeah.
time, we were not getting a ton of I'm sorry.
Orders.
Yes, we weren't getting a ton of orders, but there's an actual word for it that I can't that I'm spacing on right
Like
now. Menopause
turnover or
meaning,
like, yeah.
let's just do
Conversion.
a
Conversion.
pause for the meno, as Carla Hall would say. A pause for the meno. We were not getting right. We were just not getting a ton of sales. We were
Yeah.
getting traffic to the site, but not a lot of sales. And I couldn't
Conversion.
understand why until I
Yeah.
realized that people were coming to the site because they were really like just out of their minds, jumping out of their skins. And they were emotional and they felt, a lot of different things that are associated with menopause. Some of the symptoms can be mood changes in terms of anxiety and depression and rage, dread,
Yeah.
insomnia, headaches, like joint pain, so many things. And you think your body is kind of falling apart. You don't realize that they're all connected. And
Yeah.
so, where was I going with this? I realized that a face oil was not going to solve your problems, right?
Right.
And what I had started with was sort of like a skincare line based on your skin getting drier in menopause. And yes, that's one point. But frankly, to market it as a menopause product to me was a little bit difficult when I acquired a company that had already been started and I looked at the ingredients, and the ingredients were fantastic. They were wonderful, but they weren't
Yeah.
necessarily anything you wouldn't be able to find in your favorite moisturizer now. That's not
Right.
what menopause doesn't need, another moisturizer, right? So I really had to, honestly, I built my career on being honest with people. And I really
Right.
wanted to bring menopause to the forefront of cultural conversation. People told me it was going to be career suicide for me. And maybe in some ways it was. I wound up closing that business and really advocating for education. The same way
Yeah.
that I advocate for education when it comes to style, because you kind of can't work with people who don't know what you're talking about or
Yeah.
don't even know if they're experiencing it. And
Yeah.
this dip, this massive dip, let's say between 45 and 55, where you have a lot of depression, divorce, decreased earning potential, leads
Right.
to not only a lot of despair, but a lot of insecurity. The kind of
Yeah.
insecurity that I saw for years on What Not to Wear, with people who didn't feel good about themselves for one reason or another. And
Right.
that's the thing. I think that menopause robs you of confidence sometimes. Not always, But in
Yeah.
general, I think that we don't treat it as a holy rite of passage. We treat it as like this terrifying, awful thing that means that we are past our expiration date. When
Right.
really all it means is that we get to graduate to a different level of cultural
True.
understanding and to really be able to look at ourselves and say, no, it's not that I'm past my expiration date. It's that the values that I cared about in my youth no
Yes.
longer matter to me. They expire. Those
That
values
makes sense.
expire. I don't care
Yeah.
whether you think my boyfriend or my girlfriend is cool. I don't care whether you like my car. I'm not buying things to buy them to show off. I'm past that
Yeah.
stage of my life.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
includes looking away to get a certain type of attention or reaction back. I don't have
Right.
time to calculate all of that in my head to make sure that I get the reaction that I want from you. So I have to be very clear and precise about what I want to
Right.
say and the way in which I say it in how I express myself and what I wear.
Right. And to your point, like, I think it's a weird thing because I go down the TikTok rabbit hole all the time, right? And to your point, when you were talking about how men can have children until they die, well, but have you ever looked at a child that came out of somebody who was 80 years? He looks like a little old man. Like
Yeah.
men's sperm ages too. Like
Yeah,
their stuff
yeah.
starts aging in like 40s, but they don't talk about that, and it's just like, oh, let me just have a kid because I want to further my line. And it's like, for what? You're not even going to be here. Like
Right.
you
Well,
have
well,
no.
but but I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of ego involved here, right? And when it comes to
Of
men,
course,
and the
that's
fact that
all ego.
right, and male physiology, which has been studied from the beginning of time. I
Yeah.
mean, just to be clear, women were not required to be in any physiological study until 1993. 1993. Okay,
Which is
so
insane.
before that, everything that was required, or the way that women were prescribed medicine or anything, was based on results from men.
Oh
And now
Lord.
we're realizing that that was a real disservice to women, and also
Yeah.
has kind of created a patriarchal lens around how we treat women, not just
Right.
medically, but
Yeah.
culturally. And
Yeah.
I think we are the generation to kind of to really take that by the horns and be like, hell no, we're going to wrestle you to the ground on this one. We're still vibrant, we still have stuff to offer, but I don't want to look like I did when I was
Right.
25 or 30. I don't want to look
No.
like my friend's kid. So for me,
No.
how do we create a new sense of confidence post menopause, right? New sense of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
confidence, new body, new kind of clay to work with and mold, and come up with a style that feels relevant and modern and refreshing without
Mm-hmm.
having to look like you're a kid, right? I
Yeah.
am never going to wear low rise jeans again. Never. No. I am never going to wear a crop top. It's not going to happen. Even if I was ripped, I would not do that because at my
Yeah.
age, I don't want to. Other people
Yeah.
may want to. Good for them. Everybody gets to choose for themselves. That's amazing.
It's
But for me, I want to understand how my style evolves. Nothing stays static. So
yeah.
as I move along, even what I wore at 40, I wouldn't wear at 50. I don't think I'd wear it today.
Yeah. Well, I know you were talking about you were going through this midlife marathon. I forgot the word you used, midlife revolution or something like
Oh,
that.
midlife renaissance.
Yes. And so, like, did you have friends that were dealing with the same things? I mean, because I think a lot of what's happening with the menopause is like, I asked my mom when I started
Mm.
having the symptoms, like, so what was your menopause like? She was like, I don't even remember it, which either to me means it was so bad she blocked it out, or it was just insignificant, which either way doesn't help me because now I'm dealing with this stuff and I'm like talking to my other friend who's like 5 years younger than me and she's experiencing the same things. And it's like, who do you talk to figure out what to do, what to use, what's the answer? Nobody seems to know. And so then how do we
Oh,
get together and get a solution or
yeah.
at least just some camaraderie with it? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, look, I think that is happening. I think there are
Yeah.
incredible groups like Hey Perry, which is a
Mm-hmm.
community of about 60,000 women who can all get on this app and all talk to each other, which is
Nice.
amazing. Just to know that you're not crazy, right? But when your
Right.
mom says, oh, it was so long ago, I don't remember, right? It might have been so terrible that she blocked it out, but I would bet that she didn't know that some of the symptoms she was experiencing or some of the issues she may have been experiencing were even menopause. She might have just thought she
Yeah.
was depressed. She might have thought she had postpartum.
Mm.
She might have thought she was just anxious because money was tight. You have no, we don't
Yeah,
know
that's true.
because
That's
nobody
true.
really understood. There are 34 common symptoms of menopause and then about 100 symptoms that not everybody is going to experience. And the fact is, we know so little about women's bodies. We can't tell you exactly what's going to happen with menopause. We can tell you
That's true.
around the time you're going to go into peri. We can tell you that menopause is the 1-year anniversary without a period. And postmenopause is everything after that, where you need to worry about cardiac and cognitive and brain health, right? And those are big things because that's what's going to matter. Menopause is this other place where you get to decide, am I going to be healthy till I'm 90 and able to walk? Or am I going to not pay attention to the things that are important? So it's a lesson in so many things all at the same time. And the funny thing is, I had to step away from style to really think about all of this, because when I was going through it, I had already struggled with depression and anxiety. So to get hit with it so hard in menopause, if you have already experienced things like that, it tends to be worse. If you had childhood trauma, menopause tends to be worse. There are a lot of things that are interconnected with, what trauma looks like in the body and how it's experienced when you have hormonal fluctuation. There are so many things we don't understand. And yet, part of the reason that I had trouble talking to my friends about it wasn't because they weren't going through it, but because I was so ashamed. I didn't know that anybody else was going through it. I was so ashamed that I didn't look the same. I didn't feel the same. I had so many television shows, and now my phone wasn't ringing. I felt like a failure. And I felt like I could not get a handle on who I was, because everything that I had used to identify Stacy was sort of taken away from me. Like my physical identity was not the same anymore. So these are things that are very pertinent when it comes to self-esteem, right? And if we're going to talk about self-esteem, what are some of the best ways to work on self-esteem? Well, that comes from how you reintroduce yourself to yourself. I forgive myself for not having the body that I had at 25, right? I'm never going to have that again, but I can be proud of being 55 and strength training and keeping my bones strong and going to the gym and keeping up with that. I don't go for vanity anymore. I go because I want to be able to walk and not fall and break a hip when I'm 85. And my style reflects that as well. I'm not wearing 5-inch heels every day. I don't wear skin tight clothes because they're uncomfortable. I want something that's comfortable and yet reflective of something that makes me feel beautiful. Also a loaded word, because I'm not talking about like, oh, beauty, in terms of an ad campaign. I mean, beautiful in terms of what makes me feel beautiful, which is confidence and powerful. And those are things that I think change significantly for us as we age.
Yeah. What 5 words would you use to describe yourself today?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, the first word would be forgetful, because the brain fog is real, people. You can tell me something. I mean, when you listen back to this recording, I'm so worried it's not going to make any sense at all.
It makes total sense.
I have no idea. I'm going to take your word for it, but something comes out of my mouth and I'm like, what did I say? Or my girlfriend will say something to me and then I'll be like, what'd you say? And then I'll be like, we never had that conversation. And I'm like, oh my God, I am losing my mind. So I would say forgetful. Forgetful is number one. Hopefully, humorous. I like to think of myself as being funny.
Definitely.
I'm not like a laugh out loud stand-up comedian funny, but I want you to chuckle. And, I've always thought of myself as being intelligent, and I've always thought of myself as being, pretty scrappy. Forgetful. What was the second one? Intelligent.
I forgot the second one already.
Before intelligent. It was forgetful, funny. It was forgetful, funny, intelligent, scrappy. I'm a hard worker. I love work. And I think purpose is very important in life, whatever that looks like for you. But without it, we're so adrift. It's really easy to lie down on a couch and not get up again. I really believe that. And
That's so
so,
true.
fifth, what would my fifth thing be?
Hmm. I would think Renaissance. You're a Renaissance
Oh yeah.
woman.
I mean, but that Renaissance is not really an adjective. You said to describe myself. I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm like a dog mommy.
Um, I
Oh,
would think
maybe a little bit fashionable. I don't know. Not to everybody.
fashionable for sure, but something like, formidable almost comes to mind.
Ooh, I'll take that any day. Formidable
I
sounds
like that
wonderful. I
because
love that.
you're always reinventing yourself. And one of the things that I admired about you from the time I met you, even from before I, saw your TV when you were on TV, was that you just know a little bit about everything. And you're very detailed in your explaining of it. Because for me, like, if I'm really interested in something, yeah, I can dumb it down Barney style for anybody to understand. Because sometimes people look at me like, "What are you
Yeah.
talking about?"
What are you
Because I'm
talking
like, going off the cuff or whatever. But I just love that you're interested in so many things, and then you're just wealth of knowledge like that. I could sit and listen to you all day, just like
That's the sweetest thing I've
literally.
ever heard. Babe, that's so
I
nice
love
of
it.
you.
It's
But
so true, though.
I think one of the things that I find really interesting, I mean, I love being a student of life, right? I love
Hmm.
being a student and I love being a student of life.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of what I learned on What Not to Wear has really served me
Mm,
in the real world. In that, I
yeah.
think a lot can be discerned by looking at an individual person or case study or whatever you want to call it, and
Right.
applying that to the universal. So
Mm, hmm.
not everybody is the same, but if you focus
No.
on one situation or one, let's say in the case of What Not to Wear, one candidate,
Yeah.
we're able to glean so much information. We're able to relate to how they're feeling. We may not have the same body type as them, but we may know what it's like not to want to get up and get dressed in the morning. Or we may
Right.
have the exact same body type and not have anything in common with them personality wise, but be able to relate to them on some level. Once you
Hmm.
give an audience, an individual on which to focus, they glean what they need from that individual and the information provided. So to me,
Hmm.
from the individual comes the universal. And that's how I
Yeah.
got so stuck on menopause, was because I was miserable. And my doctors
Yeah.
did not really understand what was going on with me because they didn't really
Yeah.
understand menopause. So I
No.
had to do a lot of homework and I had to talk to a lot of doctors and I had to meet with a lot of people to understand what was going on for me and to advocate for my well-being, which I feel very
Right.
strongly about people doing um,
Hmm.
almost any circumstance. Women need
Right.
to advocate for themselves, and that's not always easy, particularly
No.
in a doctor's office. So I had to go and do my own research. And what I found was, oh my God, I've been sitting here thinking that I'm the only one experiencing this bizarre, weird misery. When do I come out of this tunnel? Only to find out
Right.
that 1 billion people that's 12% of the Earth's population and the size of China are going to be in menopause in next
Right.
year in
Yeah.
2025. So imagine if those 1 billion people were connected to each other. Imagine
Right.
if they knew that they could talk to each other. Imagine if they knew they weren't alone, that
Yeah.
12% of the Earth's population was essentially going through the same thing. That
Yeah.
is a big conversation. That is a
Yeah.
wonderful conversation and community. And there was
Yeah.
nobody talking about that. And now that that conversation is sort of rolling, we're getting a move on. We're starting to see
Hmm.
communities. There are companies that are talking about the fact that hormones are simply not as dangerous as we thought that they were. And there's all this
Yeah.
backpedaling from the WHI on the study that they did. And now you have doctors coming out and saying, hey, we have new and improved hormones. That's the gold standard in treatment for women going through moderate to severe menopause. You may want to try other things before you get to that point. But even
Right.
that feels like, I mean, we're not in a country right now where we have a lot of bodily autonomy. So the more that we
No.
know about our own bodies, the easier it is to fight for them. And we
Yeah.
must. And that
Yeah.
includes how we style ourselves. You're going to tell me what to wear at 55. The other thing is, Cara, I'm not going to tell you what to wear. Like if I could
Right.
ever go back and do What Not to Wear over again, it wouldn't be to say you should do this. It would
Right.
be to say, does this bring you joy? Does
Yeah.
this put you where you want to be in life? Does this make
Hmm.
you feel like the person that you want to be proud of in 10 years?
Right.
Who are you becoming and how can I help
Yeah.
you get there? Not,
Right.
this is what I think you should do. Because who the
Yeah.
hell am I?
Well, it's true, but then you have a lot of people who kind of are stuck in the sense of like, oh, I in their head they're still 25, right? And you're trying to get them to kind of like, okay, I get how you might have a youthful thought about being 25, but
Sure.
um, a mini skirt at 60, if you, especially if you don't, I mean, not to be funny, but if you don't have the legs to carry it off, maybe is
Well,
that the most ideal?
here's the thing. I'll be honest with you, Tara. I honestly think that we have a very different, look at what Gen Z is doing. And I think
Yeah.
that is giving Gen X
Hmm.
permission to be kinder. The way that we were
Yeah.
brought up was that you should be super skinny and only super skinny people could wear fashion, right? You
True.
had to be of some kind of privilege because real fashion was expensive. We didn't have fast fashion
True.
growing up,
No,
right?
we didn't.
And we thought that it was like inappropriate to show saggy knees. But nobody gives
Yeah.
a shit
True.
about that stuff anymore. I certainly don't. I have saggy knees and
No,
I don't
that's
want to
true.
show them off. But if I did, I sure shit would because it's my
Right.
life. If you're, I mean, you cannot, what is RuPaul's famous line? You cannot pay rent with other people's opinion, including
Right.
mine, by the way.
Exactly.
So, I
Exactly.
feel that my style philosophy has evolved so
Yeah.
much since I started because when you and I when we first met, what I was teaching, right? What I was teaching about
Yeah.
style was to quote unquote flatter your figure. And that
Right.
meant what fits well is always going to look
Mhm.
better on you. And I still believe that that's true. I still believe
Yeah.
that cut is very important. But if you
Yes.
tell me at 68 years old that you love mini skirts and they bring you so much joy and everybody compliments you and you walk around like you are the happiest person on earth, who the hell am I to rain on your parade? You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
I'm like,
That's
okay.
true.
So my job as a stylist now, unless I'm dressing you for, let's say, something where I'm concerned that you're in the public eye and I don't,
Hmm.
I want to make sure that, you are feeling your absolute best and something photographs better than it is in person or something's better in person than it photographs, right?
Right.
All of those things I'll discuss with you so that you
Right.
can still have the option to say, this is more flattering. This is what I prefer. And you'll notice that things like flattering, terms like flattering, aren't used as much by younger generations as they are by our generation and elder millennials because we were concerned with what was flattering. We were concerned with, the male
Yeah.
gaze and that kind of attention. And
True.
certainly for me when I was younger, like I wanted to feel sexy. And sexy is
Hmm.
not at the top of my list. Sexy for me now is about being in control and feeling powerful, not like hot, not in the same way. And so, I have a very different desire of what I like to feel good in. I am not in a
Hmm.
position to say to a 22-year-old who's like flattering to whom? I don't care. I'm not looking for a partner. Okay, well then you know what? You're right. You don't have to wear anything flattering. Wear what you
Yeah.
want. But the thing is,
Wear a bag if you want to.
wear it with intention. Wear
Right.
it with intention that you are showing us who you are. And if you don't
Yeah.
think that matters, then how do you think anybody's ever going to want to get to know you?
That's true. Yeah, and I think in the conversation about why does style matter, that's what it is. It's like, well, if you're, it depends on where you are in life. Some people have the luxury of not caring about their
Right.
style and you can do whatever you want and that's great. I mean, you can always do whatever you want. I'm not going to say you can't. But at the same time, if you're asking me for my
Yes.
help or advice, then this is what I'm going to tell you why it matters because hey, if you're trying to be CEO of something, coming in your pajamas is not going to get it. Like that's just not what we're doing here. So,
No, exactly.
it's relevant to the situation, the
The context.
lifestyle, the person,
Yes,
basically.
I think context is incredibly important. And that's sort of
Hmm.
when I have clients that are our age, let's say,
Yeah.
they understand flattering. They understand like, just for the job you want or
Hmm.
whatever it is. Like but younger kids today don't really respond the same way, right? They don't have the same values
Mm-mm.
that we were brought up with. Their goals are not the same as our goals were as younger people. And I think we really have to pay attention to what that means, how that
Yeah,
affects culture and how that affects style. And like all of a
right.
sudden, whatever, the 90s are coming back. Who cares, right? I'm like, great, that's a trend. That's not style, that's a trend. But
Yeah,
what's more
that was
interesting
an
to me,
era, and maybe it
right,
should stay where it was. But okay,
sadly, sadly,
just
it doesn't
saying.
look like that's going to happen. But I mean, we're thick in it at the moment. But what I think was really interesting is that I did a talk with an all hands meeting for LBMH, and we were talking about the difference between like elder millennial and up, like Gen X and boomers versus
Hmm.
younger millennials and Gen Z, and how you have to talk to them when they're shopping.
Yeah.
They may not want your opinion or your help. They may just say like, I want that in this size and I'm taking it, and great, fine. But you'll see, I find the same people who grew up on what not to wear still ask me for rules, still ask me for
Yeah.
breadcrumbs to
Guidelines.
follow in order to get there. Yes. And then
Hmm.
some people are like, I don't want no breadcrumbs. I don't want to follow any trail. I'm going to be a trailblazer. And I'm like, you go on with your bad self and have the best day.
Are there any people that or a person that stood out to you that you still remember being on What Not to Wear or Love, Lust, or Run that impacted you in some kind of way?
Oh God, it's so hard. First of all, it is really hard for me to remember because it was a long
Yeah,
time ago
I
and it was
bet
so many people.
it is.
But but I think that probably um I think it's still Belinda. Belinda was season 2. It was
Hmm.
really season 1 because it was the first season with Clinton. Um and she was such a beautiful and lovely human being, and
Mm,
the holding on to this long hair as a safety net, like way too long. She
right.
was a little person, and
Yeah.
watching her let go was like one of the most incredible experiences that I'd ever seen. I mean, to watch her transform, literally transform into like a chrysalis into a butterfly, I'll never
Oh,
forget it because
yeah.
I I think that's finally when it hit me. Like, this is no joke. What we can do through style is therapy.
Hmm.
What we can do
Yeah.
through style is it's a kind of hope. And there's
Yeah.
nothing better in life than having hope.
That's true. Yeah. So, speaking about, well, you touched on it before, but like, how is your relationship with Kat? You seem so happy. How is it different from other relationships that you had, and what's better
Well,
about it, and
I mean,
what's
she's a
sort of the
woman,
same?
right? She's a woman, so I guess that's kind of
Well, yeah.
different off the bat.
I mean,
And
that's different.
everybody,
Well, yeah.
yeah, it's funny. So many people will say to me on social media all the time, "Oh my God, I knew it! I knew it! You knew it. Well, I didn't. I dated men my whole life." So, I'm like, all these people telling me they knew I was gay. I'm like, I'm glad you knew. Um,
Right.
and it's sometimes, I'll be honest with you, that it's a little bit hard for me to like accept that label. I much
Yeah.
prefer queer, only because um cat is cat. Like, I find it very
Yeah.
hard to say like I own, if we ever broke up, which we won't, but if we ever did, it's not like
Yeah.
I'm sure that I would date another woman. I don't know.
Right.
But what I
Yeah.
can say
Or her
is
personality,
it's
really,
not
than
just her
anything.
personality, it's who she is as a person. And I mean
Yeah.
this, personality is one thing, it's great. We laugh together, we have the best time, we really get each other.
Yeah.
But she's made me a better person. And that
Nice.
I did not get from any other relationship that I'd ever had. Every other
Okay.
relationship, I felt like I did a lot to make other people better, and I
Yeah.
didn't feel any better in return.
I
Kat has,
love that.
um, she has a moral compass that I really
Mhm.
admire and revere. I think she
Mhm.
has incredible kindness, and
Mhm.
she changed me. She just
Yeah,
changed me. And I
that's
think,
so great.
it's sort of like you can't say who the one is until the one shows up. And when the one shows up, you're like, you're the one. And even maybe you're not the one forever. But I
Yeah.
feel like I just didn't know what love was really until Kat.
Yeah. That's super cool. I love that. I hope I get to meet her one day.
Oh,
That'd be
you will.
great. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about what you got going on with QVC and the Quintessential 50 and all
Oh,
of
yes. The
those
Q50.
horizons.
I mean, first of all, I have to say, I could not be more honored to be part of the Q50, proudly Q50. But QVC did something really incredible. And that as a company, I really admire them for doing, right? I think for a
Mm,
lot of time and a lot of years, many companies, particularly in apparel and home and accessories and all sorts of things, were denying the age of their customer because you're always
mm,
focusing on the youth, right? Trends are for your 20s and 30s, this, that, and the other thing. And then you don't matter. And then you just don't
yeah,
matter, right? So if you are a consumer who is buying from lots of different companies, but you're out of the sort of the target demo, we just didn't
right.
talk about the target demo. And what QVC
Mm-hmm.
did was sort of throw that theory out on its ass and basically said,
Mm-hmm.
no, we are going to look at the demographic of our customer. We're going to look at the age of our customer, and we are going to celebrate that rather than try
Right.
and conceal it. And to
Yeah.
me, there is nothing better than the work that I've been doing in the last 5 years to really understand what is happening to women in midlife, how to help women in
Mm-hmm.
midlife, how to have a renaissance instead of a crisis. And I think that's
Right.
exactly what QVC is trying to do with their overall company and branding, is to say,
Yeah.
yeah, hell yeah, this is the age of possibility. Welcome. You got here. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And there are 50 of us over 50 doing all sorts of different things that are meant to be representative of what's possible at this age and
Yeah.
what continues
Yeah.
to be possible. And this idea that you're ever done doesn't, stop until your heart does. And, I really believe that.
Yeah, it's sort of like something's got to give with Diane Keaton
Yeah,
when they were, she was like, it's this thing about how women just get more and more productive because blah 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 blah, blah. And it's true.
it
We have
really
more
is
time on
true.
our hands
But that's what's
at
so
some
crazy to
point.
me, this idea that we are being characterized, in a way that's more reductive when we should be characterized in a way that's infinitely more expansive. This is
Mm-hmm.
not the
True.
55 of yesteryear that you're looking at. Look how cool my
No.
sunglasses are. I drink
Right.
martinis. You know what I mean? Like, I'm cool. And I'm just saying
Yes.
that, there is a way in which to age, not gracefully. There's just a way in which to age where you're joyful. And
Yeah.
and that I won't
Yeah.
let you get away with, at least not trying.
Yeah. Because like I saw a quote where you said nobody's getting out of here alive.
Good
It's
luck.
just not happening.
No, maybe the 4 male billionaires who are so filled with ego that they'd rather spend the entire GDP of a country on their own body than they would helping people. That's fine. But
Yeah.
that's their choice. What I think is that, we are much better together as communities because we're
Yeah.
stronger, right? More
Yeah.
voices are louder. And what QVC
Yeah.
has done by creating this program and this whole idea of the age of possibility is gathering these voices and making
Mm-hmm.
us known, louder entities where the spotlight isn't taken away from you. You're just getting the spotlight on you. It's
Yeah.
time to shine. It's time to think about all of the responsibilities and cares you had as a youth, or
Right.
even as a younger person. Maybe you're done having kids. Maybe you're done with certain parts of your lives. Maybe you're not even at menopause yet. But the idea
Yeah.
is that this stage, which I consider to be this kind of liminal space between 40 and 70, is
Yeah.
magic. It's magic.
It is.
And you kind of have to go through a little bit of hell till you get to feel the magic, because it takes a second to kind of get your sea legs and orient yourself in what feels like darkness. It does.
Mhm.
I say
Yeah.
that, and I never want to be the Debbie Downer, but I'm so tired of people being like this all the time. You listen, life is not like that. Life is hard. And this idea that all we want from our
Mhm.
entertainment is something that makes us feel better and forget all our problems is not
Yeah.
real, right? I want to
It's
talk to people
weird.
in
That's
a way
weird to
that
me.
acknowledges hardship and acknowledges that whether
Yeah.
it's menopause, whether it's financial, whether it's divorce, no matter what it is, whether it's your kids
Yeah.
leaving home for college, shit is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And we have to figure out how to acclimate instead of just
Yeah.
resign ourselves to our fate, because our fate is ours to decide. That's all.
Yeah.
We've got
It's
options.
true. So you have something cool coming out with QVC.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to tell you. Yes. Yes, I wish I could stand up, but I can't. But the little that you can see, this is a knit jacquard 3-piece suit. I'm wearing the vest and the jacket. Of course, you can't tell at all as I sit here, but
Right.
this is the
It's
raspberry
fabulous.
one. And this is the collection by Stacy London that I have done for
Nice.
QVC, which is to fill that gap of what do I wear now that COVID is over and I have to go out again? And what do I wear to look like a grown up but still feel cool? And what do I
Yeah.
wear that's comfy that I will reach for instead of
Mm-hmm.
avoid because it makes me uncomfortable? So
Yeah.
it is meant to give you all of the comfort and all of the versatility that you would want in your wardrobe without any of the hassle. And you
Right.
get all of the style without, losing the comfort. But the most important thing I think is that so many women, when I went out on tour with Clinton, said to me, like, where are the clothes? I can't find clothes. I can't find clothes. And I'm like, what do you mean? Everywhere you go, there are
Yeah.
clothes. And all these women were between 40 and 70. And I thought, I got to do
Mm.
something just for you. That's
Nice.
comfortable, that's livable, that is special, that makes you feel
Yeah.
special, that you can wear up or down and all around, that's packable,
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that somebody needs in their life, that somebody needs in their life that is affordable and
Yeah.
makes them feel like $1,000,000.
And so how many pieces are in the whole collection?
Well, it comes out every month. So there are
Oh,
23
okay.
pieces a month, if you can
Oh my
imagine.
God. That's
Yes.
awesome. You've been a busy
It's
bee,
intense.
ma'am.
It's an intense work schedule, but what it
I
means is
bet.
that there are 23 pieces. We premiere August 19th. Oh my
Mm.
God. So I hope everybody tunes in and then I will be on every month.
Well, that's so flippin'
With music too.
awesome. Oh my God. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be
And the
fabulous.
really interesting thing about doing it, Carol, is that, like, again, as I said to you, like, I'm still a student and I've been a
Yeah.
stylist my whole life. And there are a lot of things that I understand about design, but
Mm-hmm.
nothing compared to what I had to learn to even get this going. I mean, being a
Mm.
stylist is not the same as being a designer, and a lot of people don't understand
No,
that. But what I
it's
think
not.
that stylists are afforded that most designers aren't is an overview of everybody, right? What every
Yeah.
designer is doing. And not only that, sort of like what works for what body type, or I like to say
Mm-hmm.
that designers bear the clothes, like they give birth to the clothes, and
Mm-hmm.
stylists kind of take them to school. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're just little amoebas when they come there. It's like a shirt, a dress, a coat. So the
Right.
ideal for me was to find things that aren't in the market that could be really
Yeah.
interesting for this consumer, and also to pay attention to the way things are cut because that's what I care about as a stylist, right? So not
Mm-hmm.
only do I get
Mm-hmm.
to give you a little bit of what I think is missing in the market, I get to give you the kind of cut that I think is good for a lot of different body types.
Yes. I love that. I can't wait to see this collection. I know it's going to be fabulous.
I
But so
mean,
I
I
have
can't
you.
wait for you to see it.
I know. I have your other book. Can we expect another one from you soon?
Oh my God. I know that I should. Let me tell you, I have a book agent. I've written like 37 pages of 6 to 8 different books, but I have
Oh,
not
wow.
really decided what the next book is yet. Maybe
Mm,
I thought I knew, I wasn't too
yeah.
sure. And then I thought it was going to be something
Right.
else. And then I'm not so sure. And I mean, I think a book will come for me. I'm just not
Yeah.
sure. I feel like I've got a few more in me.
Yeah. I mean, I think your whole journey, because us as stylists, I remember going through the training with you both times, and it was just like we were like little chipmunks, like, oh my
Yeah.
God, we're just trying to survive here because I know she's going to be like, why does that go? Why would you pick that? We're like, I
Oh my God. And the funny thing is like, it's not, I wouldn't, I mean, I certainly hope, I mean, kind of hope I was terrifying. I would have liked to be a terrifying professor. I feel like my dad was when he was back in the day.
people don't learn otherwise, right? That sticks in your
Oh,
head. When Stacy
Like,
London says it, you're like,
right.
okay, let me get my shit together.
Well, what I loved about that, right? What I really thought was so incredible about some of those exercises in asking people why. Why would you choose this? Why would you put this together? As a stylist, you're going to
Yeah.
be asked by your clients, why does this work?
Yeah.
Why
Right.
or, if you don't see that twinkle in their eye and they get it immediately, you're going to be forced to explain your choices. And if you are not working in tandem with your client, if you're forcing and
Right.
imposing something on them that they're not used to, then you better have a good reason to explain the why of it all.
Yeah. I remember the first one, it was for, I can't remember her name, but she was one of your employees and she had twins. And you're like, pick her something to go to a barbecue. And I picked her a cute outfit, but then I had these like, I don't know, wedges or heels or whatever. You're like, why would you wear that have her wear that if she's in the grass? And I'm like, I would wear
I
it.
don't know. But they were wedges, really? I don't know. I mean, listen, I didn't even
Wedges
know
or
about
heels or
those.
something.
Well,
I don't
heels would
know.
be different. I mean, because those would fall down right into the soil,
Right. I
which
can't
now
remember.
Dr. Scholl's makes those awesome plastic heels that you can put
Yeah.
on stilettos to wear. Let's say if you're going to like a lawn wedding in the summer or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
we had
But
those
then
back then.
no, I don't think we did. They've come so far in all these things. But then the second one I remember, it was this, I got her again. It was Rachel. I got her again, but this was for a parent teacher conference. And I remember I was just praying like, Jesus, let this be right. Let this be good. And so, I picked her a cute like blazer with some jeans. And then I had her scarf. It was really colorful as a belt. And you were like, it was brilliant. And I was like, yes. Like, that
There
was
you
great.
go.
It was like, to me, because I was very Italian, I'd been
Yeah.
to Italy and I'd seen a lot of things. And I was like, because for me, a lot of times belts, because I'm so short and I'm short waisted, but I have long legs,
Yeah.
belts just cut me in half. So I was like,
Yep.
unless it's the same color as the outfit. So I thought, this would work for her because she's short too. And the little, it doesn't look as restricting. It was just
Mhm.
really cute. And she could have worn it as a scarf too, but it just kind of tied the outfit all together. So that was my thinking in putting it together.
But that's also great. Being able to explain that, not just to me, but to the client that you're doing this for, it makes a
Right.
huge difference. And sometimes, the one thing that I try not to do is impose my taste. Like if I
Right.
love something, I'll wear it, right? If you love it
Mm-hmm.
because I'm wearing it, I'm happy to, I don't gatekeep. I'm like, here, go, this is what it is. Go
Yeah.
try it on. But I never want to be the person to say you have to wear something. I
Yeah.
want to know, the most important thing is, how do you feel? Is this
Yeah.
going to get you what you want in the game of life? Right? I didn't
Mm-hmm.
make the game. I didn't make the
Yeah.
rules. I just want you to win.
Yes. We're just playing it. We didn't, but we can also play it well, or not play at all. Either
Right.
one of the two, the three, whatever it is. So
Exactly.
I mean, it is what it is. But just wrapping up too, I wanted to find out, is there anything you're watching or reading that you're really enjoying that you want to share with us?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, there are two books. One is a memoir and one is a novel. And the
Hmm.
novel is called The Sicilian Inheritance by Joe Piazza. And the
Okay.
memoir is called Ambition Monster by Jen Romolini. And
Interesting.
it is incredible. Both books, I
Hmm.
mean, I know both the authors, and the writing is remarkable. And certainly if you have ever struggled with being ambitious and feeling like you failed and thinking that you've gotten to the wrong place in life, like this book Ambition Monster is really something worth reading.
Yeah. And one show I want to share with you that I thoroughly have been enjoying, because I know you don't love a lot of reality TV. You're like you said, The
I
Bachelor. If you
don't.
think that's real, blah, blah. Okay. But so there's a show. It's on. I want to say it's on Paramount on Prime. It's called Couples Therapy, and it's actually in New
Real
York.
couples?
Yes, and this amazing woman. I can't remember her name. Oh, Orna is the therapist, and I've never had a therapist. I've had a lot of therapy. I've had a lot of
Uh-huh.
therapists. I've never had a therapist like this. Like, she is amazing. The way that she listens, the way she holds people to things and just gets them to get out of themselves. It's amazing. The third season just dropped. And I
I
mean, me
will
and my
go and
husband have
check it
watched it.
out. I will
You
check it out
have to
tonight.
watch it. It is amazing. Me and my husband have been watching it, and it's like, oh, so we're seeing each other's stuff in it, and we're like, see, that's what I meant when I said that, and whatever.
Oh
So
my God.
it's
I
It's
wonder if
really cool.
would be. But anyway, I will
It's
definitely
really
check.
cool. And they're in New York. So if you ever wanted to check her out, like she's really, really good.
I will
You'll
have
love
to
it.
check this out for sure.
Yeah. So, but it's been an amazing conversation. I could literally talk to you all day, just sit at your feet and be like, tell me more. But we want to get you back to your life and everything like that. So tell us, is there anything else we can support you on and where we can follow you and
Oh,
all
you
of
can
the
definitely follow me at Stacy London Real. That's my Instagram account. The Instagram account for the new collection is called By Stacy London.
Okay.
Please follow there to see all of the updates and new drops and fun stuff. And yeah, hopefully a little bit more on the horizon coming in the first quarter of 2025. So you'll have to have me back.
Yes, we will definitely have to have another conversation, and hopefully it won't take 2 years to get us
Exactly, to get it
scheduled in.
together. I promise that it won't.
Are you on TikTok or
No,
any other
I'm not.
platform?
I'm too old for TikTok. It's too much for me. I can't
You
handle it.
are not. You are not, ma'am. You people would love you on TikTok because
I find
just
it really overwhelming. I
your
mean, I am on TikTok. I won't lie. I think I'm Stacy London CEO, but I just don't know what to do
okay.
on TikTok.
Just have fun. Just be you. Because
Okay.
just
All right. I'm going to try
check it
it
out. Check it out,
this
and
summer
just
for you.
yes, because you would have so much fun on there, and people would love you. All of the Gen Zers and the millennials, because I have 2 millennials and a Gen Zer. Okay, and they're very entertained by me. Let me just say,
I
but
bet.
so and I'm a grandma now, almost 5 times. I have almost 5 grandchildren. Is that insane or what? So, but yeah, you would love it, and you would be loved, okay? Because you would people really get to see that other side of you. That we know the TV side, but like
Yeah.
the fun side, like just chatting and everything that you talk about. Just go down there and talk about like the history of style, like you did with the lipstick at the Spy Museum. That was amazing when you
Oh
told us
my God.
about
I
that.
completely
You
forgot
know,
about that.
yeah. And any little tidbits, like, because you know so much about so much. So we just
I forget that I know things.
Same, because it's just sort of stored in your brain, right? So that's the thing with me. Like, you don't want to do another style video because you're like,
I know.
have
I
we
know.
done it all? Have we said it all? Like, it's
Well,
a lot.
you know what? That's the funny thing. I did not think that I would want to go back to style. I really thought that I would become like a women's health advocate and I would do work in the midlife and menopause space, which I want to continue to do. But it's what
Right.
brought me back to style.
Yeah. And you have more to say about style. I'm just going to
I
say.
do, as it turns out.
So you could talk about all of that stuff, all of the things that you've learned, because that just again makes me so fascinated to listen to you because you've run the gamut on style, you've run back to the gamut on style, and you've learned all this health stuff, and we all need to hear this because who else is talking about it? We're all just floundering around trying to figure it out, and that's not really working so well for us.
Well, I mean, the world is a pretty chaotic place at the moment. I agree. So
Yeah.
where we can find solace, let's get to it. And if we
Yes.
can be funny
Well,
on
we need our
TikTok,
leader. You're our fearless leader in this space. So if somebody's going to talk about it, then we want to hear it from somebody that we already love and admire and trust about everything else. So it's time for you to just take that mantle, ma'am. Just get on up there.
all right. I hear you. That was a great pep talk.
Yes, we need to hear from you. Just saying.
Sounds good.
Well, I love you so much. Thank you so much for doing this for me. And yeah, we'll talk again.
Let's talk soon. And thank you so much for having me. It was great to see you.
It was great to see you.
Bye, baby.
Ciao.
Thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe so you won't miss our next conscious conversation with Kara and her fabulous guests. Follow Kara on social, on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Clubhouse, at Kara Allan, and connect with her on her website at karaallan.com. Also, leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. Thanks again, and see you next time.